Greetings, YouTube. So recently I found myself contemplating the difference between racial levels and race as class. Now, race as class is something that was very much part and parcel of early Dungeons & Dragons, and it's also part of many of the clones that have been based off of that. And I will be basing my readings off of the classic Players the Rules Cyclopedia, which is the single volume game that many people have a fondness for. Mine, I realize, is in rough shape, but I picked it up at a yard sale for $1. Now, if you look at the first races class in the book, which is the dwarf, you have things, it gives you your minimum score, the hit dice, gives you your armor and your weapons, and it gives you special attacks, which you can get at a higher level. Then it says that you have fighter options when you get to a certain level of experience, which is 12th level. It gives you special defenses, tells you that you have infravision, tells you have access to certain languages, and you have the ability to detect certain things because you're a dwarf. And that's it. You're a fighter with a couple of bonus features. And your levels max out at 12 as far as hit dice and such is concerned, though your attack rank doesn't continue to go up as you get more experience. And this makes me smile that the highest level, which is, I think, was it 12? Why did they break it up into 3, 3, 2, 2? That's weird. The shaded bars. I don't know, but it goes up to 2.6 million experience points. That just makes me smile. It could be 26. You know what I mean? They gotta have those high numbers because people love those high numbers. And that's it. You're just a dwarf. You don't get to be a dwarven cleric unless you cross class, I guess, if you can. If your GM allows it. You don't get to be a dwarven ranger, which is a type of a ranger. You can't be a dwarven wizard because, well, dwarves don't do that. You're a dwarf. Unless you take up another class, if your GM allows it. That's all you're ever going to be. A dwarf. And that is the most fun-crushing concept I can think of. Now, if you compare races class to racial levels, now, and I will freely admit, under the D20 engine, I consider racial levels to be a bit of the best we could do in a bad situation, because there are situations under which I would like someone to be able to play a powerful race, as well as being able to play a full-fledged class, but I don't want to deal with level adjustment, and I don't want to have to deal with, the person being crippled into how many class levels they can take and things like that. I find those mechanisms to be very awkward. Under, say, Oathbound, you have a racial track and you have a class track, so you can the racial track has some abilities. It doesn't have abilities every level, and you have your class track as well. So you get a race that has kind of options as well as your class options. But that's a powerful setting, and not everyone wants to play in a setting like that. Now, Radiance, which is what I'll be referring to now, that has abilities every level. Some are racial, and then some are class level. And they're built on the tiered model. Under Pathfinder, they usually have those as 1, 2, 3, and 4-point abilities. So if you wanted to do some kind of conversion from Radiance to Pathfinder, that's how you'd change the nomenclature to match the situation at hand. But they just call them basic, intermediate, advanced, and Paragon. But it's 4 tiers. Now, if you want to play a shifter, for example, which is of the Radiance, is my favorite of the racial level classes. There's also one for vampire in here, so you can slowly work your way up, becoming a very powerful vampire, following a number of different kind of ideas to achieve the archetype that you like. You start out with 3 basic abilities, and these are the core abilities of the class. You get Night Senses, Outdoor Athletes, and Wear Form, your ability to change temporarily into a wear. But as you gain abilities, like at 2nd level and up, you start getting a mixture of racial and class abilities. Now, your class abilities for Shifter I leave you a lot of options. I'm going to give you quick. These 2 entire pages are, for the most part, your class abilities. 3 full columns plus 3 more entries in the first column. For a total, okay, now you get 22 basic options, 25 intermediate options, 16 advanced options, and 5 Paragon options, for a total of 68 different options to create the exact shifter that you want to create. This means you could have 3 shifters in the same party, and none of them would be the same. They would all have a unique combination of abilities, combining their racial and class abilities. Now again, I would perchance prefer to be able to have someone play a shifter and be a cleric or a bard or something like that, but I understand you have to control that kind of power level to a certain extent. I get it. This is an imperfect solution, and I've been wrestling with this in my head trying to come up with a better one, and I can't. I even looked at a Pathfinder supplement out there, I can't remember its name, that's supposed to allow you to play were forms with full class levels. What it does is gives you an extremely gimped racial bonus. Essentially, you're just playing a were race. And then you can then buy into feats and things like that. So you're spending your feats to run your race instead of being able to spend them to run your class. And that, to me, is not a good split. In addition, you end up with 2 full-sized Pathfinder character sheets. One in your were form and one in your humanoid form. Or your not were form. They're all humanoids. And that's just way too much bookkeeping and way too much to juggle with. So I've decided that the only way to really do this is either to play a game like Oathbound or play a game like Paragon. I mean, Radiance, to get all those different abilities. Actually, there isn't a game called Paragon, isn't there? I think there is. But at least you end up with a very functional, versatile, flexible, customizable class, as opposed to what you get in here, which is a dwarf. A fighter with a tiny bit of flavor. Whoop-de-doo! You could get magic items in this game that would let you pick up pretty much all of the abilities of a dwarf. So you could play a human, and if you were dedicated to it, you could end up getting abilities, magic items, to make up for the fact that you don't have these abilities that the dwarf gets, and you could be better at being a fighter because they don't have class limits, level limits, and have all the abilities of a dwarf. So playing a dwarf makes absolutely no sense. Playing a non-human in Rules Cyclopedia, in my opinion, makes 0 sense. You are going to be behind the power curve of everyone else around you. Flat out. And people tell me, oh no, they got special abilities and stuff. Magic items are like cats in these older versions of D&D. They're everywhere! Have you ever looked at the Storm Giants, not the Storm Giants, the G1 through 3 series? The Hill Giants Steading, the first one? The magic items are literally falling off the walls. Okay? So you can pick up all kinds of abilities along the way. Yeah, there's no reason to play a non-human in these games. And people always argue, well, it's a human-centric world. Well, screw you and your human-centric worlds. I like variety. I'm not playing this so I can play a human. I'm playing this so I have the option to play anything. It's a fantasy game. We should have the options to play all kinds of stuff. Alright? But we don't in Rules Cyclopedia. You get the option of playing a crappy fighter or a human who can make up the few lacking abilities with magic items or spells. Or you can take a game that actually allows people to have fun and have toys, and you end up with a character that has all kinds of options. 68 of them! I know, I counted! So this is why I have a problem with this whole idea of racist class versus racial levels. Yes, racial levels are not perfect. I would prefer a better solution, but I don't have one with under the D20 engine, which is my favorite engine. So, there you have it. I guess this has been an RPG rant. That's what I should put it down as. It really isn't to pondering. I'm just flabbergasted that anyone ever played anything other than a human in this set of rules. Now, I never played this. I started out with Advanced Dungeons and Dragons First Edition. That was the game I started with. So, and I started playing a human. I don't know why I started playing a human. I didn't really get into the game. I think I started playing human because that's what my friend handed me, because I was completely new to the hobby. It was only years later that I realized that there's a whole lot more options out there, and I started playing dwarves. And even the dwarven options back in First Edition weren't the best. Racial limits are still something that I can't quite fathom. It makes about as much sense to me as alignment languages. But there you have it. I don't like races class, never have, probably never will. And I don't understand why anyone ever played it. I understand that people like different things. I get that. I don't understand how they can like that. I don't. There's nothing special enough about a dwarf under Rules Encyclopedia to want to play it, in my opinion. It just isn't. You play a short human and say that they're half dwarf, and you'll be good to go. And you can make up the infravision with a magic item. So, I'm at a loss as to why anyone loved those characters back then, the halfling and the elf, and don't get it. I would rather play characters that have options, that have toys, that have fun, that are about possibilities and not limitations. So tell me, did you like Races class? Do you like Races class? Do you prefer racial levels? Do you ignore level adjustments? Do you make sure everyone in the party has the level adjustments that are the same, so it's much more flexible? What do you do in these situations? I want to know. I realize that I've come across as a little ranty today, and I apologize. But this is a situation that I've never fathomed, and I'm predicting I'm probably never going to fathom. I just don't get it.